I'd like to thank everyone for coming this afternoon. This is the candidate forum sponsored by the Community Taxpayers Association. And Greg, we're going to have a problem because this is really coming apart here. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened. This. That came out. Yeah. Sorry about that. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Community Taxpayers board members. I'm Sharon Allman, President. Greg Terhune, Vice President. Secretary Dave Reddick, which he's on his way. The Treasurer, Virginia Perry, she's in the back. And Sergeant of Arms, Dr. Larry Moore. Thank you. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Greg, and we will get started with our forum. Thank you.
I almost tripped Sharon there with the cord. Oh, that would not have been funny. It's funny because it didn't actually happen. All right. I do want to thank everybody for being here. I believe that this forum is a very important thing. The Taxpayers Association exists and part of our mission is to make sure that the taxpayers are educated about the issues that affect you. And voting is probably the most important issue, and elections are what it's all about. So this is one of the main things that we exist for as the Community Taxpayers Association. We're going to have the candidates will be coming up here in just a few minutes, and we will get started hearing from them. But before we do, I would like to just kind of go over just a few of the things that you need to know. First off, cell phones, turn them off. Thank you. This is just a mere politeness that that your cell phone doesn't ring while somebody's trying to focus on what they're wanting to say. And a distraction like that can affect me in a very dramatic way. And I would be sympathetic if to any of the candidates that are trying to focus on their statement. When we get started, the candidates will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves and their stand on issues. Yes, anything that they feel is important that they want you to know about them. Then we will start taking questions from the audience. Now, these questions, we would like for them to be written down in advance, and you turn it over to the committee. Virginia and Sharon will be handling that, and they will screen the questions first off for legibility. I don't want to be up here trying to read a question and I can't handle the handwriting. Also, we want them to be screened for redundancy and politeness. We're not here to attack anybody. We're just here to gather information for you as a voter. And that's what we would like for the questions to come across with that in mind. Okay, the candidates will have 2 minutes for each question to answer them. And then we will give them another 5 minutes at the end of the session for a closing statement, because I know anytime that I do an opening statement, about 3/4 of the way through the program, I start realizing that I left something out, and that they can put it in their closing statements. So, to reiterate, we're going to give them 5 minutes to introduce themselves, 2 minutes for each question, and 5 minutes as a closing statement. So, let's get started. Have I forgotten anything? Board members? Am I good at this point? All right, I'm going to assume that that's a yes. All right, we're going to start with our first office, and it's going to be the clerk treasurer. We will go in this order. We'll take the clerk treasurer, the judges, then we'll get into council members, taking each district one at a time. All right. Unfortunately, our very first candidate was not able to make it. So that was Diane Walmsley. And we have a literature table back there in the corner. And her literature is there, and we encourage you to look at that. Get her literature and go over it. That should help you when it comes time to decide about the clerk treasurer and who you want to vote for. So, the next would be Judge Susan. She's not here?
She responded she wouldn't be here today, so I'm not real sure why she isn't here, but I should note that all the candidates were invited in writing to attend this one.
Yeah. I need to stress that we sent an invitation to every candidate for every position here in town. And Susan, for some reason, is not here right now. We were under the impression she would be here, but she isn't here. So now we're going to Town Council District 2, and that is Dave Rogers and Shane Williams. Guys, do you have your cards, your desk stamps? So, Shane and Dave, come on up. You're welcome. So this is Dave Rogers and Shane Williams, Town Council District 2, and I'm going to give them each 5 minutes. Dave?
First off, I'm pretty good at standing. Otherwise, I'll be grabbing and holding on to it.
That's up to you.
Dave Rogers. I'm currently on the Mooresville Town Council. I'm vice president on my second year of Town Council vice president. And, I've always attended. I've ran 3 times. Well, this would be my 3rd time running for council. First time not successful. The second time successful. Hopefully this one as well. So I have always attended this event. I remember it used to be in the church, and then it's grown over to the library now. And so I do appreciate the Community Taxpayers Association putting this on, because I think it is very important. A little bit about me. I'm born and raised and have lived my whole life here in Mooresville. In fact, I live in the house right next door to my parents where I grew up since the early 80s. So they moved there in that house, particularly when I was starting kindergarten. So I pretty much been through the Mooresville school system my whole life. Graduated from that, and I'm currently working as the Sheriff's Department jail commander, where I've served 19 years to our community as a whole for the Morgan County government. So that's a little bit about myself. I'm 37 years old, getting ready to turn 38, and me and Shane's been talking about who's won this perilous battle, and so he says I'm winning though, so we'll see. But anyways, again, I just appreciate the invite to be here to answer the questions of the public. I've always one of the first things I done when I came on council was started pushing for that. I will give Shane some credit that he and I had several discussions before I got on council about the lack of people getting to talk at our meetings. So that was one of the very first pushes when I came on the council for me. So, and that's why I think these events are so good. So.
Now, I just want to remind you that you have the ability to ask the candidates questions, and now is the time for you to be getting a card so that you can write down your question and turn it over to our board. Okay, Shane?
Good afternoon. My name is Shane Williams, and I'm running for town council. I grew up in Mooresville as well. My family roots go back about 100 years here. We have a history of owning small businesses in the community. Many people probably knew my grandfather, Kurt Welcher. I also currently operate Williams Rental Properties, which is a business here in Mooresville. It's headquartered here. We own some property in town, so I chose to put a lot of my investment here in the community, and I'm proud of what we do with that investment, making the community nicer. My educational background, I have an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree from Northwood University and a master's in business from Butler. So that's my educational background. I've been attending meetings here in town for about 3 years or so, pretty faithfully. I go to the town council and redevelopment commission meetings. So I've been kept aware of what's going on to the best of my ability from outside of government. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm proud of the role that I feel I've played in the community to advocate for things that I think our government has lacked, including transparency, including communication. And one of the things that I think was a real mistake was the Gateway Project announcement. So many people in town thought it was a grant program. Instead, we borrowed $12 million in a bond issue. And when that kind of rumor, I get tired of living in a town on rumor, living on rumor. And I think our government should communicate better. But when that kind of disparity exists, it tells me that there was a communication gap in our government. And so I started going to meetings because of that, and found that our redevelopment commission wasn't even taking public comment for several years. And I think that's terribly wrong, considering how much money they control. And so one of my goals would be to rein them in a little bit as a governing body executive, and I think we can do that. But anyway, I love the community, been here forever, put a lot of money in the community, and I'm happy to run to serve the community and to make sure taxpayers have a real voice and are listened to.
Thank you, Shane. All right. Now's the time when we start asking our town council members, candidates, I mean, start asking them the questions. And we have a question that goes to Shane. How much did it cost taxpayers to annex you into town, and will you reimburse the taxpayers?
He says it costs $7,000 to annex us into town. I live on the Billinger property, which has been out of town for a long time. I think the town would want people to be annexed in to increase tax base. It was a Mooresville address supporting actually adjacent to the town line. So no, I won't reimburse the town. I think I'll be doing that through taxes over years, and I think it's nice to have somebody that wants to voluntarily be annexed into town because they like it so much. And I really think the question is, it's okay, but I think it is a little bit snarky, and that's all right. I like snarky. But no, I won't reimburse the town. I will be paying more taxes voluntarily to the town. And I'm proud of that. So.
Thank you, Shane. All right, this is to each of you. Says here that there has been talk of adding 3 town council members to the redevelopment commission. This would give those 3 individuals a majority in both bodies. Do you think this is a good idea? Okay, Dave, you want to take that one first?
I think there's some positives to doing that. I also think there's some negatives, and I really think if you've got a good town board or a good number on the town board, that I think that can be a good thing, because then the town board does control that to some extent. But on the flip side, if you get town board members that are irresponsible and don't hold accountability very well, then that can also be a bad thing. So as much as I see the benefit in it, I think because we can't control who gets elected to what office ultimately, that if you create that board to also basically be the same as your governing body, that there is really no oversight at that point in time other than just elected officials, and in 4 years before you could get someone out of office if you felt that way. I think a lot of damage could be caused quickly. So I do think it is a good checks and balance to have that as a separate board. So that's my stance, is I would like to keep it as a separate board. I do like having town council membership on the board, but the majority vote, I don't know that that's the best.
This is an area where I would disagree with Dave. This is one of my issues in my contract with Mooresville, which I'll describe later. But I disagree with the comment that you have no oversight. I mean, just elected officials. I think that's who should do oversight, are the people that are elected by the public to manage their money, not 5 bureaucrats who are appointed by a town council. Now, the town council does have governing authority, but one issue is the president of the council has appointments on his own, and so the public doesn't really choose the president of the town council, when appointments are made. So it's very difficult for the public to be able to change a board like that, because they've got a layer between them and the board, and it's hard to do. So I would wholeheartedly support 3 elected officials on the board, and that's actually what Town of Plainfield does with theirs.
Thank you, Shane. Another question for both. This one says, modern technology provides opportunities to distribute information through opt-in services like email, text, social media, and more. Do you believe citizens should be able to sign up to receive all minutes, agendas, and reports and so forth through multiple means of distribution, and would you support such a service? Shane, you go first this time.
Actually, that's another one of my contract items. Sure, I would support that. You could have a situation where someone could fill out an online form, where they don't have to print it, write it, scan it, or drop it off or mail it. It's an easy way to do it. And you add them to an email list where you could send them agendas for the next meeting, meeting minutes. First of all, we have to make sure our meeting minutes are up to date. Recently, when I announced, I think it was a few months ago, they were 6 months behind. I think that's since been remedied, but our website has a long way to go, just on information, and they redid the website, but there's a lot of information missing from it that I think they could put on there. And sure, why not? It'd be easy to do, inexpensive to do. It's electronic. I do want to say, though, we don't want to forget people who don't use the internet as well. So, I think they should be able to call in and request information easily. Right now, it's kind of a barrier. You have to pay for copies. You have to fill out a public access request. It's kind of it's not a real friendly system right now.
That's a concept that actually, as far as the instant emails, that I've not had presented to me since I've been on the council, but I don't necessarily see an issue with it. We'd have to definitely look at cost associated with doing that with staffing. Staffing can always be a problem with uploading and downloading and making sure everything's accurate before those things go out. So I would not be opposed to it, but definitely something we'd have to look at the feasibility and the cost of actually making that happen, and to be consistent with it as well. So we have done a lot of updates since I've been on the council with our website. Now you can pay your utility bills on there. You can access the minutes. We now have the recording as well. The town's furnishing onto that side as well. So it is coming along. It's a lot further than what it was, and I think the technology as a whole, that even 5 years from now we'll be talking about something more than just getting an email. What that is, I don't know, but I'm certain with technology that it will continue to grow, and we'll continue to try to grow with that as well.
Thank you. I want to kind of add to that last question just a little bit. Do you think that we should try to get into all forms of social media, or just pick one and make it strong?
My personal opinion with that, social media has a place, I think, everywhere, whether it's government, private business, or just personal use. I sometimes think that you can tie up too many resources to keep up with that and keep it accurate and to go in that direction. So, I think it needs to be a good mix of just, number one, a website. That's kind of the key that social media brings everyone to. And then, pick a couple of the major sites that the majority of folks use and concentrate on those.
I think communication with taxpayers is so important. It's a priority of mine, and like I said, I don't like it when the town lives on rumor rather than fact. And so, as far as the number of social media sites, I would say, Facebook, which we've delved into a little bit, Twitter and Instagram, because a lot of youth use Instagram, and let's face it, when you borrow $12 million for 25 years, they're the ones that's going to be paying this back. And so I think they should have a way to find out. And I found that there are a lot of young people that do care. They're just using different formats than what we would use to find out that information. And as far as cost, I don't think that's going to be too much. You can share these social media platforms, take one post and share it across multiple platforms. But I think those three would be the three that I would recommend.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, again, all candidates. Large taxpayer-funded projects are often approved with the promise of specific results. Would you support the creation and release of project summaries to help ensure those projects achieve their stated goals? Shane, I think it's your turn to go first.
Yes, I think sometimes if you go to the website, sometimes you can see kind of the preliminary plans of what's going on. I would rather see the town council do a little more to ensure these projects are seen through. There are parts of the gateway that, I'm sorry, they just don't look like the pretty pictures we were shown. And they haven't from the beginning, and there's parts that look worse. Take the North Gateway sign, there's about a third of the vegetation there that was planted. It's dead, missing, gone. We paid for that as taxpayers. The flames downtown, we've got an inferior product with the lighting. It was installed improperly. They drilled 2 holes in the bottom of the can lights. And so they voted to go ahead and keep those. I would have requested that they redo them. And beyond that, I think once a project's in, and this is hindsight, but our projects are getting run over, especially in the gateway. And so I think we should be addressing the issues that it's caused and fixing those. But yes, absolutely release plans as accountability to it. I don't see why not.
I'll speak a little bit differently on this. First of all, the Gateway project, which is what I think my opponent is most concerned about with most of what's going on, because those are our biggest projects in town. The current town council, really, besides the park downtown, we didn't vote for that. We didn't vote for the money that was financing that. We was not the current members that done that. It all started happening as we came onto council. But we was not the voting members that voted that we was going to spend the 12 million or 22 million, whatever amount of money you want to say that is after interest. That was already in place before we took on, for the most part, for the majority of the council. And so that wasn't something we can undo. Those plans were signed contracts going on. So all we can do is hold people accountable, which I think that we've done a pretty good job at. There's been some rocky roads with any large project. And when you deal with contractors in general on a large project, there's going to be lights that don't work. There's going to be different things that doesn't work. That's beyond anyone's control. Mine is holding them accountable. And I think that our redevelopment commission, as well as the town council, has been working on that, even though it may not be as fast as what some folks would like to see. But there's contracts in place to protect everyone. So that's my stance. I do agree that releasing the project, which this one was, the Gateway was, there was just a lot of disagreement with it. But it was released before us, and we definitely followed through. So I would definitely still support that.
Thank you. All right, the next question. This taxpayer wants to know, how would you review and evaluate the Gateway project? And this is directed just to David.
I think I've kind of alluded to that. The redevelopment does report back to us as problems are in existence to let us know what the status of those projects are, such as the lights that haven't been working in the park because of a water problem. And so I feel as a councilman, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I personally believe that they do follow up with us and keep us abreast of what's going on with the projects.
Okay, the next question is for both of you, so I'll go to Shane first. How important is it for a town council member to be an independent thinker, for example, when voting on motions?
I love that question. I think it's extremely important. And matter of fact, it's one of my concerns is that we've had, to my knowledge, I can't remember the last time we've had a motion made that's died. And we have an awful lot of unanimous votes. Now, we had the first 3-2 vote this week that we've had in a very, very long time. Most of the time, they're 5-0 or 4-0 if someone's missing. And I don't think that organically happens. You can't get 5 people that decide where they want to go to lunch, okay? So I think there's a lot of discussion behind closed doors. And what that does is it shuts the public out of the discussion. So when someone makes a motion that dies, it at least gives the public an option that they can see. If it dies, it dies. That wouldn't bother me in the least. So I would feel good about that, just from the standpoint that it informs the public. They see more options, that it leads to more discussion. And I think following Robert's rules a little bit more stringently is very important for the same reasons.
I agree, having independence on the board is, as an elected official, is our duty. But I also, me being one of those voting members on the board currently, if I wholeheartedly thought that my vote would change something that was unchangeable, then most definitely. But we are a team. I look at the board as a team. I look at our community as a team. And there's not many decisions that I've made, and one of the most controversial that I've made since being on the board is voting for the downtown park. I had, all the way up to the day that I voted to do that, I had conversation and explanations with the bank president that owned the park, or that land at that time, and Mr. Williams, as I was walking into the meeting room, being very unhappy about that. So I definitely, before I make a vote, I worked weeks to try to see what we could do to prevent that from occurring, and it wasn't going to happen. So either I could have voted to say no at all, and we just didn't win at all at the town level, so we wouldn't have a nice park that everyone's using downtown now. The bank would still own that, and it probably would not be a parking lot at this point in time. So we came up with some better solutions. I did take everyone's, including Mr. Williams' information, the bank president, so I had both sides, and then I made a rational decision. So not every decision that we make is going to be just because we disagree with someone or want to cause that not to happen. We are a team, so it's a give and take. And if you don't have give and take on a board, you'll never get anything accomplished. So that's my stance.
Thank you. All right, this next question is for both of you. Any of you will get the first crack at it. It says here, we appreciate the effort to release meeting agendas online prior to the meeting. Thank you. But would you also support any proposed resolutions or ordinances be made available along with the meeting agenda so that citizens could have time to read these proposals and ask questions or make comments prior to the town council getting to vote on these resolutions or ordinances? All right. And who did I say was first? Okay.
Shane really wants to go
Lost track already.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. Obviously, some of those, depending on legal counsel and what we're allowed to do, because that's some folks don't understand when you get on these boards. No different a school board or a town board, or I also sat on the United Way board of Morgan County as a not-for-profit. And there's some things that your legal counsel just isn't going to let happen because it can't happen until it's looked at and voted on. So definitely the things that could be, I would be all for. Things that cannot be, obviously that's just how it has to be, unfortunately. But we always review that with legal counsel and make sure that we're doing the right things that we can. So yeah, I definitely be for what we could do on that.
Ditto. I think that, again, communication is good. I don't see what the problem is. If there is a legal problem, obviously, but yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done with your website. There's a lot that can be done with email. A lot that can be done with social media. Sure, why not? I will say something about agendas, though. I think what I've noticed is, at least there was a vote a few weeks ago that I went to, and I wanted to speak about it. But the vote was taken before the public comment section. So I think more could be done during the meeting to solicit input from the public. And I don't think it would take forever to do that. Not every meeting does somebody want to speak. But the agenda itself can be manipulated to shut out the public in a way that makes their voice irrelevant. And so I would advocate for doing some things during the meetings as well to allow people to speak.
All right, we have one last question for the two of you. And this is, the person wants to know, do you support pay raises to the police department and the police force? I think it's Shane's turn.
One of my contract items is regarding town employees, and I've already tried to be an advocate just as a taxpayer here in town for the police department. We do have a problem with losing veteran officers, and so the town council just recently, last week, well, first I did a post on it on my Facebook page, which is heavily watched, and then shortly thereafter the town council did the right thing and requested that the police commission offer recommendations on the situation. I think those recommendations will come back that we are deficient compared to neighboring departments. While we may not be able to be competitive with some Indianapolis or a big city, perhaps we could do the pay raise. So to me, I would like to see the results of that, see the results of why officers are leaving, and then leave it at that. But If the funds are there, I would support it to keep good officers. I think veteran officers are very important to the community, so that's that.
Obviously, I come from a background of law enforcement. My whole career has been 19 years with the county. When I started with the county government 19 years ago, I was making $7.10 an hour. I left Hinder and Implement John Deere dealership because I was making $5 an hour there. And so it was quite a substantial pay raise for me to go to the sheriff's office at that time. And I was young, and so that was a lot of money, actually. So I'm not necessarily against pay raises for our police officers, but we also, and me being what my career is, I'm obviously pro-police. But we also, as a council and as a town, we have more than police officers in our town. We have firefighters, we have street department people, people that work at our sewer plants. We got people all the way around the board that we have to look at, and we have to make sure that everyone's taken care of in a fair manner. And I think that, you know, police officers do put their lives on the line every day, but I think that also firemen do. And I think that street department people do. If we look at the construction zones and the people that get injured on the street department side of things, it happens too. They lose their lives. So I'm not discrediting what a police officer does. My brother's a police officer. I'm not saying I'm not for raises, but we have to do it wisely, and we have to make sure that we take care of all of our staff and not just one entity with that. And when we look at large pay raises, you know, first of all, we'll never be able to do what Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department does, but there's a reason why they're hiring people for that amount of money too, and why they're hiring everyone's people. And this is not just a problem from Mooresville, this is a problem from the Sheriff's Department. We've lost some as well, and we're pretty equivalent in pay. Markville City is equivalent in pay. So I think if you look at the localities within our county with pay with police officers, they're all pretty close. And if you add the benefits in that, like health insurance, our folks bring home pay, it's probably just a little bit more than the bring home of some of those other entities when you account for that. So definitely for looking into it. Very interested to see what the police commission comes up with as a solution and what they think the problem actually is.
Thank you very much. All right, that is the questions that have been turned in to me. So now each member gets to do a 5-minute wrap-up for their closing statement. And I believe we go to Shane first for that one.
Since we're all seated, I would just say that I think with me, you'll see a little bit of difference. My opponent, while it is important to get along with people and so forth, I can't find the last time you voted no, and I went back for 2 years worth of meeting minutes. And I think there needs to be a little bit of opposition. In the last 2 years, there were several votes I would have voted no on. One would be to give $500,000 from the food and beverage tax to the street department money to the development commission, who's already got money. That would have been an example. But I think there needs to be more discussion on the town council, informing the public, a little bit more detail so the public sees what's going on. And I don't think anybody in this room can say that I'm not a communicator. I'm not a communicator, and that I don't advocate for more transparency. They may say I'm a little brash, but I think sometimes that's needed to get change. And if you'll notice, a lot of the topics today are topics that have been discussed and seen on my social media posts. Some of these topics were not being discussed in public before those posts, and I'm very, very proud of that. Running adds credence to that, and so I went ahead and put my money where my mouth is and ran. Lastly, I want to leave you with this. I'm the only candidate that has done something like this. It's called a contract with Mooresville. It's at www.shane4mooresville.com and Shane4Mooresville.com. You can click on my contract there. I have 12 contract items and a lot of details about how I think and what I would advocate for as one member of the town council. If you need a copy of this, let me know. I can get you a copy of it. My number is 317-538-4737. You will see me do things to communicate with the public like you've never seen before. And if you go to my website, that's already started. I put a list of all the properties I own there so that people can keep track of me and keep me accountable. If I'm paving just in front of my properties, you'll know it. You know, I put a resume there with a lot of information, a lot of charity that we've done and awards we've received. But I really appreciate your vote. I love this town, and I think I can really make a difference here and add to the discussion and follow the public. And that's my goal, right? Thank you.
Again, I just want to thank the community taxpayers and everyone that showed up today and everyone that is with Danny online sending questions, and I think he's collected. I think this is good. Every campaign that I've personally ran, I've had someone running against me, so I'm very used to having that, and I've won some and I've lost some. But I think that's what this process is all about, really, is choice. And it is the public's choice of who they elect, and that's who you're really representing, not yourself or anyone else, but the public. Being a public service, my whole career, I'm involved in the community, not just with my job, but like I said, I sit on the United Way Board of Warren County, and I've been on that board for almost 16 years now, and held very many positions within that not-for-profit. So I think it's important as an elected official that you're not only getting paid for what you do, but you also are involved in the community in other ways, and I've always done that even before being in office, and I've maintained that. So, when you're on a town council, you'll learn there's many things the first time I ran and the second time that, I thought I could fix. You can't fix everything because, number one, all the money's not there. Things that you thought you could do with certain banks of money, you can't. So there's definitely some trade-offs and some partnerships that have to be built to make things happen. And, our redevelopment commission, I do support them, I really do. And they've got some good folks on there. I was just at an event last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think, that the city of Martinsville is envy of what we're doing because they haven't been able to do that until recently. And they've been envious of what we've done. I don't agree with everything that they do, but there's also a give and take. And they have also helped provide this town a sewer plant. They've helped provide this town a brand new fire station. They've helped remodel a police department that we would have not been able to afford to remodel had it not been from their assistance. So the money that is being spent for the services of the town. We have great services in our town. We may trade off some of those services or funds or work with those different boards to make things happen. But ultimately, there's not a service in this town that suffers. And if you look at that compared to other committees or communities, we don't suffer here. We are doing very well at what we're doing. We're not perfect, but we've got pretty good streets. When you call a policeman, you got a policeman. When you call a fireman, you got a fireman. And that's what the public needs is those services. And none of those suffer, no matter what we have done so far since I've been on the council. Those have only improved. So I look forward to hoping to get reelected, to be able to stay on the council. I am a big believer in term limits. So if I do get reelected, this will be my last term on the council, and there's some projects I'd like to see through that we're in the middle of. So I ask for your vote May 7th, and when I say I ask for your vote, I want you to vote for who you think is going to do the best job for you, and not just necessarily for me just because I said I want you to vote. I want you to vote for who you want to vote for. So thank you.
Very good. I want to thank both of our candidates for making themselves available for this Meet the Candidates Forum. I want to state one more time that I think this is an extremely important. Educated voters usually vote much better than non-educated voters, and this is a significant part of the education process, in my opinion. Thank you, gentlemen. Take your cards with you. And I encourage you to stick around so that the public can mingle after this is over. Thank you. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, sir.
Next up, we have District 3, Town Council District 3, and that is Jeff Cook and Mark Mathis. I believe Jeff Cook is not here, but Mark is. So come on up, Mark. Again, hopefully while Jeff Cook has sent in some literature, and it should be on the literature table if he did. seat there, Mark. All right. So this is Town Council, District 3, and Mark Mathis is here with us today, and he will be taking questions from everyone, and also some of the questions had been previously directed to all council members, and I will go over those questions with them. So, Mark, you get 5 minutes for your opening statement, and then you will get 2 minutes for answers to the questions, and then 5 minutes for a closing statement. And I'm going to hand you the mic for your opening statement.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you. My name is Mark Mathis. I've served many terms on the council. I started out, I believe it was 1996. At the time when I first went on the council, we had our police department was in the garage. Our newest car in 1996 was a 1994. The rest of them were older than that. The first year that I was on the council, I worked with a great council as well. I never want to say I didn't, but we implemented a situation where we would get new cars every year on a rotating basis. We've done that during the time that I was on the council. We've never veered away from that. We thought that was the best route to go. I've always firmly believed that in the police scenario that's their office, and it's also it was good for the town to do that. We moved that building in 1996. We got out of that building and are in the current building we are now. We were very proud of that building. And of course, at this point in time, we've outgrown it again, so now we're going to be in a quadruple that size. I'm very proud of that as well. My passion, without question, through my council life is I'm an economic development guy. I believe that we need businesses in town to make sure that things work. I've worked very hard in that area. My time when I was off the council, I also served on that for the council. So I've never been away from that since 1996. I held that position as far as with the economic development. We brought many new businesses in that I'm very proud of. I was a part of those. And not just the small ones, but the big ones. I mean, I will say that it's always TOA that people talk about. And TOA, of course, has over 1,000 people working there. I've been to Japan a couple of times. That was not the funnest trip I've ever took. I've been 5 times, in fact. But you have to do that to maintain those business relationships with the Japanese. Likewise, we've had a lot of local business that we've helped maintain. We took some gambles in 1996 and helped a business start. We kick-started that industrial park again because it was done, it was stopped. And again, I'm very proud of that. The old Methodist Church, of course, as you folks know, I was not on the council when it was renovated, but I was there when it was purchased. And that was the goal, to take a downtown house or church, if you will, and not have it go into disarray, especially where it's set. Again, I'm very proud of that building. It's houses, and we have plenty of room to go on from there. And I'll go ahead and just stop there. I could probably rattle Greg for the next 3 weeks, but I can hold it off up there and we can start with the questions. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. So, the first question that I have here is some of the questions that were directed to all town council members. There's been talk of adding 3 council members to the redevelopment commission. This would give those 3 individuals a majority in both bodies. Do you think this is a good idea?
Well, Well, at this point in time, we do have varied degrees of people that are on the redevelopment commission that do different things from different walks of life. I think we have a good redevelopment commission. I know in many towns that they have had majority of the town council to do that. We've not done that. If the rest of it, I'm 1/5 of the board, as we always all say, and so I would certainly look at that if that's what the people decided they would like to do. But that's about all I can say on that, Greg.
Do you think I need that? Okay, modern technology provides opportunities to distribute information through opt-in services such as email, text, and social media, and even more. Do you believe citizens should be able to sign up to receive all minutes, agendas, reports, and so forth through multiple means of distribution, and would you support these services?
Absolutely.
Next question. Large taxpayer-funded projects are often approved with a promise of specific results. Would you support the creation and release of project summaries to help ensure that these projects achieve their stated goals?
If that is in a question of transparency, I've never had any problem at all disclosing as things go on, whatever those projects are. Of course, as everyone is aware of the town council projects, we're an open book. I mean, anything you want to know about a town council project, my cell phone's out there everywhere. Anybody wants to ask, they can ask. If they want to bring it up, there's public comments in the meeting, they can ask, and they'll get the answer, maybe not the answer that they like, but they'll certainly get an answer.
Thank you. Okay, we appreciate the effort to release meeting agendas online prior to the meetings. Would you also support any proposed resolutions or ordinances be made available along with the meeting agendas so that citizens could have time to read these proposals and ask questions or make comments prior to the vote on said resolutions or ordinances? I kind of agree with the premise of this question.
You kind of agree with it? Well, at this point in time, in my tenure, when I was on the council before and then I went off the council for a few years, the public comment section went away, but it was always there before. When I was on the council in 1996, when I first went on the council, the public comment thing was there. And then it went away. I don't know exactly why it went away, but it wasn't my decision to do that. I think right now everybody can get a copy of the agenda. I'd be glad to have them do that. And you're basically what you're saying is you're asking me if we have something, there should be a public comment through each and every step of everything we do on. If there's a comment you want to say.
Resolutions and ordinances.
Well, resolutions and ordinances. I don't think I have a problem with resolutions and ordinances. No. No, I don't have any problem with somebody knowing that ahead of time and commenting on it. No, I don't.
Resolutions and ordinances are pretty significant, and I think that the public needs as much notice as possible. That was not my question, by the way.
Oh,
Okay, back in 2012 and 2013, you served on the town council along with Jeff Cook, and at the time you both voted to support the takeover of the IAWC as well as the funding of the Gateway project. Would you make the same votes today?
well, I should throw Virginia under the bus too. She was on there with me. The Indiana American Water Company takeover was a complex issue. Legally, as it was stated when we first went into that venture, the town was legally, we could legally acquire the water company. We were looking at that point in time, increased rates. I think perhaps maybe you've seen those as time has gone now. We decided that would be something that, as a town, we should take over. Many towns of our size do own their own water companies. Obviously, we had to look at infrastructure. What was the infrastructure? How much improvements? But we felt like at that point in time that it was worth the trial to go after that water company because it does bring in a lot of revenue. It's not like a sewer company, or the sewer. So yes, we did decide that was a good decision. And obviously, if I could go through and say we were going to win it, I would say we'd do it again, but we didn't. We didn't have as much money as our folks. So would I report, and that's the way I would have to answer that question. If I thought we were going to win, I certainly would. Secondly, on the Gateway project, I would first and foremost say I don't like everything that the Gateway project has done. Okay for me? Okay. No. Did you want me to answer this question? Okay. Gateway project, again, was, as everyone in the room probably knows, was done by the Redevelopment Commission. Obviously, the town council approved it. There are certain avenues of that particular project that I'm probably not crazy about. There are certain projects that the town council has done I'm not crazy about. There are certain projects that every board that you're not crazy about, whether it be the park, the police commission, there's different things that we all don't agree with. I don't agree with everything that went on there, but I think overall the Gateway project has done and still has done a great job for Mooresville. The concert series, all the things that come into play there, and the comments that we get from that, and keep in mind that with that particular project, what the redevelopment was striving to do, in my opinion anyway, was we were desperately still trying, as I think everybody knows, economic development has switched now, and people go find a place to live, and then they go find a place to work, and that's not the way it used to be. It used to be the other way around. But economic development trends show that. So as a result of that, what we were trying to do is make our town a better place to live. And I think large part, so yes, again, I'm not crazy about all of it, but an overall project I would support.
Thank you. All right, this taxpayer asks a question. It says, new small business owners have made comments that it has been difficult to open due to fees and regulations. Do you support entrepreneurs, and what steps could the council take if they do support entrepreneurs?
Well, I'm a small business owner. My wife and I should say, not just me. I work for her, quite frankly. She's the principal broker. But we have a small business. I try to support as many small businesses as I possibly can. We have talked, Shane and I talked one time about maybe one of his spots being an incubator type situation, one of the properties that Williams Property owns. There's another spot in town now that I've talked to a few people about. It's a difficult area to get into because you have to have some capital to get that going. But I support small business. I wish we had 50 more 20 people shops, small businesses, if you will. That's the best kind of jobs you can get.
Thank you. All right, this one is about the Gateway. It says, how would you review and evaluate the Gateway project? And then there's a second question here. I think I'll hold off until you answer the first one.
How would I review? Yeah. How would you review and evaluate it?
I think I probably already answered that. As I said before, the Gateway project has a lot of different facets. Some that I agree to, and some I agree with, and some I don't agree with, I guess. But overall, again, in reviewing it, I think the Gateway project has done what the redevelopment wanted to accomplish. And again, what we wanted to accomplish is trying to bring people to Mooresville. We were trying to clean the place up a bit, and I think that got accomplished.
Okay, the next question is there a company interested in the Poly property and the specific building being built by the redevelopment commission?
I am, as many of you know, I am president of the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. That's one of the roles that I serve now at the pleasure of the town council on the executive committee. We have great interest in the property, but unfortunately I cannot tell you at this point in time if there's anything going on because I've signed confidentiality agreements.
It is a common practice to have a confidentiality agreement while negotiations are going on. Okay, this last question that I have is, how much did the water company lawsuit cost?
I don't know. I can't give you an exact number. I really don't know. It's been a while. I know it was probably 1.3 million, but it could have been more than that. Greg, I don't really remember.
All right, that's all the questions that I have received up here. If anybody has a question you want to jot down real quick, better hurry up. Otherwise, I'm going to turn this over to Mark for his closing statement. Okay, Mark.
5 minutes.
I'm going to echo one thing right off the top that I heard David say when they came in. I've got a lot of different backgrounds and different kinds of things. I've been in corporate sales. I've been in purchasing. I've hired. I've fired. I've done real estate now for a long time. I've been involved in economic development for a while. I know that game well. As I said, we have in my tenure on the council, every year that I was on there, the employees got a raise, or maybe in one case they just got a bonus. That was the year I came back. So I think that from an overall thing, all the employees have always been treated as fair as I can treat them. They will continue as long as possible to do that. They have outstanding benefits, better than anybody around. Obviously, everybody wants to get paid more. We're 9,800 people. So our AV is what our AV is. We don't have 30,000 like our neighbors to the north. We're in that scenario. But I've always done my best to be able to make sure that we treated all departments fairly, and I believe I've accomplished that goal through my tenure as a town councilman. Again, as David said, I won't say I agree with term limits because I've been on for a while. But this is my last term. This is it for me. I'll be 71 at the end of this term, and I think I've done a good job. I'm a healthy guy, and I walk every day, so there's no problem with that part of it. But there again, if you believe that my opponent would do a better job based on all the things that I have done, and I will do in the future, then if you think you'll do a better job, I have no hidden agendas, folks. I'm just trying to do the best job I can for the town of Mooresville. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. Once again, we appreciate all the candidates that have made themselves available for this forum and given themselves up so that you can talk to them, ask them questions, and so forth. All right, we're gonna take about a 5-minute break, maybe just a little bit longer. This gives you a chance to get a brief intermission, freshen up just a bit if you need to. I'll tell you what, we will get started again at 20 after on that clock. That's 7-minute break.
How's the military party doing? We're doing all right. That's good. It's good to see you guys. Rebecca, we've met before, I think. Yeah, it's just so wordy different things. So, yeah. What's nice is that you always have those too. Oh, yeah. A lot of PNCs running around here. So, is your yard starting to come alive? Okay, good. Yeah, it's starting to. Oh, there you go, yeah.
My husband was in a wheelchair for 15 years.
So you had to do it, that's right. Do you guys do flowers and vegetables? No. Just vegetables.
Okay, take your seats, please. It's time for us to get started again. Thank you. And we can get started now, and our next, the next candidate is Tom Worthen, running for Town Council District 4. Tom, you got your card? Do we have a card for Tom?
all these years.
All right, this is Tom Worthen. He's running for District 4 in the Mooresville Town Council. And he will go through the same process. He'll get 5 minutes for his opening statement, 2 minutes for questions, and then 5 minutes for a closing statement, just like the other candidates before him. So, Tom, you get 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. My wife asked her question whether I should be doing this since there was going to be a timer on me, because she knows that 5 minutes is really tough for me. Am I right, Mark? My name's Tom Worthen. I was born and raised here in Mooresville. Don't know how far my roots go back here in Mooresville. I can tell you that I was a graduate of Mooresville High School in 1983, 1986. I married my high school sweetheart, and we purchased a business that I worked for since I was 14. 1995, I was asked to sit on the Mooresville Board of Zoning Appeals, and I had no clue what I was doing. Went to my first meeting, met Tim Kearns for the first time, met a gentleman by the name of Don Barrett, who coincidentally this afternoon I went to his viewing. He kind of took me under his wing and said, this is what local government's about. It's about helping people. 1996, the voting public, on an 80% ballot, voted to establish the Metropolitan Police Commission. The way that it was worded was, do you want to abolish the marshal system in town of Mooresville? And at that point in time, that seated council, under the authority of a referendum, formed the Metropolitan Police Commission. In 1997, I was chosen as a member of the first Metropolitan Police Commission. 1999, we had an election where one of our council members had won a county council seat, and I was selected by a party caucus to fill that seat. I served 2 terms and then chose not to run again. Sat out for 8 years and chose to run again, a regular Grover Cleveland, if you will. This will be the end of my first term, my second time around. It was a self-imposed term limit because what happened was I got maybe a little short-tempered with my wife and my kids, and maybe just a little concerned with whether I was doing the best job in the town of Mooresville. The 8 years that I was off the board, I thought by golly I did do a good job, and I ran again. I saw some things that I did not like. I saw a council that went through 4 years of not being able to provide 3 years of the 4 to not be able to provide benefits to our employees. And sometimes, and I get accused of being tight-fisted with the money, and sometimes you have to be. Sometimes it's all about saving the money, not necessarily just throwing money at a problem and hoping it fixes itself. If that's the worst thing people say about me is I'm frugal, I'm pretty lucky because I think there's other things that can be said properly. I have 2 daughters, and my wife and I have 2 daughters, and one of them still lives in this area. The other one lives 2 hours away. She wants to come back to Mooresville. She's not in the Mooresville area because of the love of her life. And I see that, but it kills me that she's 2 hours away. The question's been brought up on the gateway and what it's attempting to do. And it was something that I think the previous council or redevelopment board looked at and said, how can we get the most valuable asset of our community or people to stay here? And if it's to try to make the place a little more attractive, to make it to where, if nothing else, the next generation is proud to say, I'm from Mooresville, Indiana, then I think that's a very noble thing to attempt. I plan on being in Mooresville. I've been asked when I'm going to retire from our small business. My wife tells me I have to wait until I make 6 friends for pallbearers before I retire. Everyone that I talk to and say, why do you take the time to do this? And it's because I'm proud of this town. This town's been good to me, and it's been good to my family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Tom. Now we've got some questions that have been posed to all the candidates, and you're going to get your chance to take a shot at those questions. There's been talk of adding 3 town council members to the redevelopment commission. This would give those 3 individuals a majority in both bodies. Do you think this is a good idea?
I'm going back to the first redevelopment board and the council that seated that redevelopment board. At that time, there was a concerned tax group that requested of the town council that no town council member be seated on it. And it was never part of the bylaws or the rules or anything, but as a gentleman's agreement, that town council said, okay, we're not going to do it. Someone alluded to, if you have good members, that it would be a great thing to have that. But if you have someone that you disagree with and you put them on multiple boards, you're not going to necessarily agree with them when they're on a different board. So, it goes back to the old expression, the best form of government is a king if you have a good king. That's what these boards do. It does give you, in this case here, they are appointed, but it is a completely new and fresh set of eyes. Would I like to sit on the redevelopment board? There's times I think I would. There's times I think I would make different decisions. But to say that I would make it mandatory that 3 members of the council be on there, I would do that no quicker than I would say that no member can sit on the redevelopment.
Thank you. Okay, the next question has to do with social media. Modern technology provides opportunities to distribute information through opt-in services like email, text, social media, and more. Do you believe citizens should be able to sign up to receive all minutes, agendas, reports, and so forth through multiple means of distribution, and do you support such a service?
I'm a social media guru. You all know that, right? I don't do the social media, and I don't. It's been said by someone that what you're not up on, you're down. And I'm not a big fan of social media. I think at times it gives people an opportunity, an audience, and an opportunity to not be questioned. to not be pointed out when it may not be completely correct. But I know it's coming, and I already said that I really want to find a way to keep our biggest asset, our best asset, our people here. So I would support it with the understanding of how much is it going to cost. That is the big thing. I want to, if we start a project, and keep in mind, we have done websites as far back as 2001, when we had a utility company donate the money for us to do that. So we will do, we never got it exactly right. Even the one we got now, everyone has stated that it needs a little bit of work. So if we can do it and do it right, I would support it 100%, but I do not want to do it halfway.
Thank you. Okay. We appreciate the effort to release meeting agendas online prior to the meeting. Would you also support any proposed resolutions or ordinances be made available along with the meeting agendas so that citizens have time to read these proposals and ask questions, get more information, make comments prior to a vote on such resolutions or ordinances taking place?
The logistics of that, I don't know. I've never thought about bringing out and having the ordinance or the referendum available verbatim in a printed form. The reason I haven't done that is, part of it is on a rezone ordinance that is usually provided by the attorneys for the entity that's rezoning the property. It is reviewed by our legal counsel, but at that point in time, it is not an ordinance or it is not a resolution. So the logistics of being able to release that beforehand, I don't know. I can say this, when I don't know the answer, I will find out. So anything that we can do legally and logistically, I think we'll do.
Very good. Okay. Importance has been placed on a lifelong membership in Mooresville. Gateway and economic development projects have been touted as to bring new people to town from different places. How will new Mooresvillians be received, and is there a place for recent arrivals in our town's government?
Get a little bit personal. My father met my mother in Laredo, Texas in 1955. They got married and they moved back to Mooresville. I jokingly tell my mother she's the first immigrant, which she wasn't. They had property on both sides of the border. They had property, their family history went back 7 generations with land grants from the King of Spain. But I've joked about that. And the question was, how will they be received? I hope they'll be received better than my mother was. Because what I found as we grow older and my mother kind of opens up on some things is she wasn't received very well because she was different. I'm going to tell you that I will make every stride that I can if we can bring more people to Mooresville to make them feel as welcome as I would expect to feel if I went to their home.
Thank you, Tom. Well, that's the questions that have been directed to all candidates and you. So, at this time, while we will go into your closing statement, you get 5 minutes for your closing statement.
I'm not sure that Mark used all of his 5 minutes, and I don't think they did. You know, those cumulatives, can I use their minutes also?
We'll think about that. Give me a chance to think on that.
We've had other candidates mention the different projects that we've done throughout the past 3 years. When we complete our paving projects this year, we will have done $2.2 million worth of paving. We've done it through the Community Crossings grant money. We have on 2 of the projects 25% match, and on the first project, which was the first year that it was available, a 50-50 match. The 75-55 is because of our population. The population is a double-edged sword. We have a census coming up because our Constitution, and I think there's a little book back there, says that we're going to count the peoples. We're going to count the peoples coming up, and we may lose some funding in one aspect and gain some in the other. We have a complete count committee meeting next Wednesday night, and we're going to start in with what we have to do to count our peoples. We have ordered 2 pieces of fire apparatus. They're not fully funded, but they are fully budgeted. So what we will do with that is we will be able to pay those out of our local option income tax. Our total budget is $9.7 million. 3.2 million of that are property tax funds. The rest of it are income tax, use tax, sales tax, gambling taxes, entry taxes, and excise taxes. So we try to do as good as we can with that money. This year we do not have a balanced budget, and by that I mean that we have intentionally chosen to spend down some of our cash reserves to do one-time projects to make the town better. The council that we have is fiscally responsible. We have seen a minor growth in our assessed valuation, and we've also stayed competitive with surrounding communities on amenities or services provided. I think the town is in a real good place. I think there are some places, like every community, that we can work on and make better. But I think today, this community is better than what it was 3 years ago. And I think that with your support, I can help to try to make this place a better place next year and the year after. So I'm asking for your vote. I appreciate the association for asking us to come. I appreciate them for not blackballing me because I am running unopposed. I do appreciate the fact that you did give me the audience. And my wife probably really is excited that I didn't talk to her in the wrong program. So thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom, and all the other candidates. We've had a few questions come up since this thing started, so right now I'm going to impromptu invite all the candidates, the town council candidates, back to the stage and open up the floor again. This is a chance for you to get last-minute questions in to these all 4 candidates. So, Dave, Shane, Mark.
Can I sit in the first spot where Tom is?
I think it's already taken. Yeah. While I collect my thoughts, I'm going to give them each a chance to have like maybe 2 minutes just to make some comments at this time. So We're going to start here with Tom and work our way down. 2 minutes each. Whatever you want.
You should have started with Tom.
He's got 2 minutes.
I would defer that to questions from the audience.
Okay.
Pass this on down.
Sure.
Again, I just want to reiterate what I did before, that this is important, so your questions are important, and pass them up so we can answer them.
I would just refer you to my website, shanefrommooresville.com, and my contract from Mooresville, where you can find a lot of information about what I think. It's Shane4, 4, Mooresville.com. And if anybody would like a copy of that, a physical copy, just call me 317-538-4737. Thank you.
The only thing I failed to mention a while ago, so I appreciate this, Greg, that I could do that. I mentioned my wife just briefly, but I also had 3 children. Myself, my wife, and my 3 children all graduated from Mooresville. My 3 children all graduated from Indiana University. So I wanted to mention them, and kind of like Tom said, I have one daughter that's a school teacher at Decatur. My other 2 children, one lives in Mississippi and one lives in Colorado. But again, it's a job situation. That's why they're there. But we are Morgan County, Mooresville through and through. And we went to school here, and my wife and I, and all 3 of us. That's all I got, Greg.
All right, I'm going to start with a question here for both Shane and Dave. That's who's been directed to. It says, transparency is a hot button. Explain what you mean by this and what you can do to correct the issues. Dave?
I think personally, I'm a pretty transparent person. Like I said before, I work for the sheriff's office. We are very transparent there, county council commissioner. So me, in general, I'm a very transparent person, and you're welcome to ask me anything, and I'll pretty much give you some sort of thoughts on that, or get you whatever you've asked for. Setting on the council, I don't know that we've had. Maybe in years past, I can't speak for other councils, but since I've been on the council, I think overall we've been very transparent. Any request for information comes through, we get that. Now, whether you like the procedure to obtain that information, but that's just government in general. Whether you went to Plainfield, Greenwood, or any other government entity, there's going to be a process to get certain information. So, and a lot of those processes are just to protect, so someone doesn't come back to us and say we didn't provide that. So in the long run, some of that's protection, so we're not in legal battles because someone said we didn't give them something that they may have wanted. I think we're very transparent. I don't think that's really an issue with the town council, as we said right now.
About 2 or 3 years ago, when I started going to meetings, I began to get very vocal about transparency because of that, like I said earlier, the gateway bond debt. And I repeat that a lot because most of the town, a lot of the town, let's say, that I spoke to, thought we had gotten grants. Instead, we borrowed $12 million on a 25-year bond. And I still hear the grant thing, even to this day, as much as I've talked about it. And that indicated to me a very serious miscommunication from government. So I began speaking about that. I do think they've made some progress. I do. One of the things I advocated for was nameplates at public meetings. We have those now. As a member of the public, you have to go in front of a microphone and identify who you are. And they didn't even have nameplates identifying them. We have that now, and I appreciate it. Those are the kinds of things, attention to detail, are things we can do. The website, there's a lot of information. The more you share on the website, the less people have to fill out forms for information. I don't think there's a statute that says you have to hide all this information and you have to require this form for something that that's not an executive session. So the more you put on the website, the less people have to go through a process to get to that. Redevelopment Commission is an area that needs work. They used to not take comments, okay, during meetings. We got that done, and then they put a paper on the podium that said, well, you can ask questions and make comments, but this isn't a question-answer time. So I went up and I said, hey, this is a disgrace. You spend all this money, and you're not even going to answer our questions in public? Come on. So you have a man there that has gotten by with, for years, the ability to leave the public out of the equation. And he's been dragged kicking and screaming all that way. So that man is still there, and I don't think this council has held him accountable. More needs to be done.
Thank you. All right. This question is for each of you. Which town council candidate will return the Founder's Stone to its rightful place?
I'm not sure, when speaking to Randy Haymaker, I'm not sure that it's really in its right place. It says this is where Paul Hadley's first business was. And I don't think that corner is where his first business was. I think they did place it there because they couldn't, it was private property where his first business was. So it is within the park. To say that it's not in its right place, I don't agree with at all.
Number one, I voted to keep the rock put back in its rightful place, which I believe is on that piece of property. The location, I mean, my house has a detached garage, so to say that that garage is not part of my property because it's behind my house doesn't mean it doesn't exist and it's not where it belongs. The rock, I think, is important to maintain in the park. I did advocate for that when that became an issue. I keep hearing, and I see on social media, that it's hidden in the back of the park. And I don't know that that's really what it is. It is in almost the closest location to the stage where most people are going to be gathered on a normal basis. I don't see many people in the corner of the property up by Main Street there much. But it is by the stage, it's by the Citizens Bank parking lot, right where people are parking and getting out of their vehicles, and you can actually see it. They would not see it if it was on the front side there at the busy intersection. So I honestly think it is in a fairly good place on the property. It's where it is visible. It's not hidden. It's actually landscaped very nicely around it. So I'm content to where it's at. But I know several people could definitely dispute that. But that's been a small group that's actually approached and said that they would like to see that move, and we represent the majority.
I totally disagree. First of all, it's not Paul Hadley's first trading post, it's Samuel Moore's. I did. And I'm not trying to be snarky, but I want to give credit to the family. The stone was placed at the first centennial by the family of Samuel Moore. And we talk about our history and loving our history, at least I do, in our town. And a lot of people remember the stone in the corner of Indiana and Maine where they could see it from the road and walk by it from the sidewalks. And I've had a lot of people tell me, including the family members, that they would like to see it return to its rightful place. And, this goes back years. People would see it in the parades. They would sit on it. They would take pictures. And it is back in the corner of the park by an alleyway, crammed in the corner. You can't see it from the road. I've had dozens of people asking, where is it? Where did it go? They don't see it. And I think we should give more credit to our history than that. It's called the Bicentennial Park, right, to remember the 200th anniversary. And here we have an actual piece of history that's been here for a very long time, set by the founder's family, and we don't give it the credit it should get. And so I would strongly support moving it. And I disagree with the idea that a few people want to move. I think there's a lot of people that want to move. And there's an example. You could do a Facebook poll using your technology, or you could have a vote at the town council. They could vote at the government center like we did with the banners. Why not let the people decide for once? Thanks.
We decided, I guess, at that point in time that the rock in its current location would be good. We have thousands, and I will say thousands because we've had that many at our concerts. I know it's 200 or 300 at a time, perhaps, but I mean, we have thousands of people that see that particular rock is. As Tom it said, I've been told by not one but several people, and this is not in the family, that Samuel Moore's original store was where the VFW is. I don't know if that's true or it's not true, but I've been told that. It sat there at the corner for years. I understand that. When that intersection was changed and everything was changed, it came back and it sits its current location. I've had people that have visited the concerts and come to me and told me that they appreciate that because as they go in, people that go to Citizens Bank, they have no problem where that is. And at this point in time, I think it's fine where it sits. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, one last question. And this is for Shane. It says, Shane, you have been supporting pay parity for our police officers with IMPD. How do you propose to pay for that?
I believe I've said the opposite, that we can't keep up necessarily with a department like Indianapolis. So I'm not sure, and I stated that in this forum just recently. Did I misstate it? No, I think I would start at some lower figure, but the police commission has just been commissioned to do a assessment as to why we're losing veteran officers, which is an issue that does need to be taken seriously. And so if pay is one of those issues and we can afford it, I would definitely support it. But those are my caveats. But no, I don't think we would be able to compare it to IPD. So you have to find out what are other reasons to be able to keep people. Pay is one issue. It's not always the only issue.
Maybe we've given you a chance to clear up a misconception. Well, thanks to all the candidates. That wraps up our forum. I'm going to suggest that the candidates kind of hang around in case someone wants to speak to them one-on-one, give them that opportunity. Please remember we've got a literature table back there, and we have some refreshments that have only been slightly addressed. So help us out, get some of these refreshments, mingle with the candidates, and thanks to everybody who took the time and have made the effort to come out and become a more informed voter. Thank you very much.